Hello, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive into today's mysterious royal web, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon. You're about to step into a world where the lines between duty, reputation, and redemption blur, and where one royal woman may be quietly rewriting her family story. Her name is Princess Eugenie, the youngest daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and the granddaughter of the late Queen Elizabeth II. To the public, she's often seen as the quieter royal, the one who avoids the glare of tabloids and instead dedicates herself to causes that matter. But this week, as she stepped into the spotlight in London, her presence carried more weight than ever before, because while she was mentoring young artists for the King's Foundation, her family's shadow was once again growing darker behind her. It was a cold Tuesday evening when Princess Eugenie arrived at an event for the King's Foundation's 35 Under 35 network, a gathering of some of Britain's brightest young minds in art, sustainability, and design. Cameras clicked, smiles flashed. To the casual observer, it was a celebration of creativity and youth. But to those who knew the royal undercurrents, it was also something more. Eugenie stood at the podium, poised and elegant, her voice steady. "It's fantastic to spend more time with such an incredible group of talented young people," she said. Her words, polished yet sincere, echoed in a room filled with dreamers and innovators. She spoke about how her love for art shaped her career, how creativity had been her compass, guiding her through a world that can often feel scripted and suffocating. But even as she spoke of inspiration and possibility, an invisible tension lingered. Outside that elegant London venue, the world was whispering, not about the princess's art, but about her father's past. Because once again, Prince Andrew's name had resurfaced. Newly revealed document from the archives of Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier whose crimes shook the global elite, had re-entered the public eye. And in them, letters and correspondences that seemed to confirm what many had debated for years, that the infamous photograph of Prince Andrew of Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused him of sexual assault, was not doctored. For the royal family, it was a chilling reminder that the past has claws. But even as controversy swirled around her family name, Eugenie pressed forward with her mission. To her, the King's Foundation represented something pure, a chance to spotlight young talent, to give voice to a new generation. She believed art could heal, that creativity could build bridges where politics and privilege had burned them. And for that moment, under the bright lights of that London hall, she seemed determined to reclaim what the Windsor name had lost: trust. Yet fate has a cruel sense of timing. Just one day later, her employer, the prestigious art gallery Hauser and Wirth, where Eugenie serves as a director, became the center of a very different story. In a courtroom at Westminster Magistrates, prosecutors alleged that the gallery had breached Russian sanctions. The charge? Making a luxury artwork, Escape from Humanity by George Kondo, available to a person linked to Russia between April and December 2022. The irony was impossible to ignore. Here was Princess Eugenie, advocating for integrity, for ethical artistry, while her own workplace stood accused of international misconduct. Though there was no suggestion of her personal involvement, the storm clouds were gathering fast. For the British tabloids, it was irresistible. Another royal caught between duty and scandal. To understand why this mattered so much, we have to step back, beyond the headlines, beyond the courtroom, into the heart of the King's Foundation itself. This organization, built upon the vision of King Charles III long before his coronation, stands for sustainability, heritage, and the revival of traditional crafts. Its 35 Under 35 initiative is meant to ignite global change, a movement to reshape how the world sees the intersection of culture, the environment, and creativity. For Eugenie, who has long described art as her lifeline, this was personal. She wasn't just attending an event. She was defending her belief that art can transform society, even as the world doubted her family's place in it. Art, she once said in an interview, teaches us empathy. It shows us the world through someone else's eyes. And perhaps that's what drew her to this cause, the hope that through color and canvas, she could rebuild a name that had been tainted by whispers. But the whispers were growing louder, because while Eugenie spoke of future generations, the past refused to rest. Documents linked to Epstein hinted that Prince Andrew, under immense pressure, had written desperate messages to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, pleading with him to clarify that he was not involved. In one alleged exchange, he confessed, "I can't take any more of this." These were not the words of a royal above reproach. They were the words of a man cornered by his own choices, and perhaps by the very privilege that had once protected him. Imagine being Princess Eugenie at that moment. Your father, stripped of his royal titles, his military honors, his public duties, reduced to a ghost within the palace walls. The family name once synonymous with grace now entangled in disgrace. And you, caught between love and legacy, try to carve a path of light while the shadows of your lineage stretch endlessly behind you. That's the paradox of modern royalty. The crown no longer guarantees reverence, only scrutiny. Every word, every action, every connection is magnified under the world's lens. And for Eugenie, even a charity event, a night meant to inspire, became another chapter in a story she didn't choose, but cannot escape. Still, she smiles. Still, she works. Still, she believes. Because perhaps, deep down, Princess Eugenie knows something the world forgets, that redemption isn't granted by birthright. It's earned quietly through purpose. But as she stood there that night, championing young visionaries and artists, the air around her carried the weight of unspoken questions. How long can one family balance grace and guilt? Can good intentions erase generations of scandal? Or is every royal act of kindness merely a footnote beneath the shadow of power? And as we'll soon see, the story doesn't end with a speech or a scandal. It's part of a larger reckoning, one that stretches from the marble halls of London to the secret archives of the elite. Because every royal gesture, every photo, every statement, hides something deeper. And sometimes, what's left unsaid tells the truest story of all. Eugenie has always been the artist of the family, a dreamer. But in recent years, her art has become something more than expression. It's become refuge, a place to make sense of the chaos she was born into. When she speaks about creativity changing lives, but there's an irony here. It's not just an elegant Shakespearean. It's a quiet the same passion that defines that turns every royal heartbeat into a headline. Now sits at the crossroads of controversy. The gallery she represents, Hauser and Wirth, one of the most prestigious in the world, is under the microscope. The painting in question, Escape from Humanity, now feels like an omen, a work of art allegedly tied to Russian money. A royal tied, however loosely, to that institution. A father tied to one of the darkest scandals in modern royal history. Every thread seems to pull at another, weaving a tapestry that no amount of blue blood can bleach clean. And still, the palace says nothing. For decades, the firm, as insiders call the royal machine, has perfected the art of controlled silence. Never complain, never explain. It's a motto older than most monarchs. But in the digital age, silence doesn't erase suspicion. It amplifies it. The internet never forgets, and no crown can outshine a headline. Meanwhile, in the gilded corridors of the King's Foundation, preparations continue. The charity, celebrating its 35th anniversary, is meant to symbolize renewal, a bridge between tradition and tomorrow. Its 35 under 35 network is filled with visionaries, architects designing sustainable cities, artisans preserving ancient crafts, musicians rewriting cultural narratives. And in the middle of it all stands Eugenie, smiling, supportive, radiant. To the public eye, she's the embodiment of hope, the next generation of royal purpose. But behind that calm smile is someone walking a tightrope stretched between two worlds, the idealistic and the unforgivable. Because no matter how far she steps into the future, the ghosts of the past keep reaching out. Her father's image beside Epstein, that single photograph, still floats like an unhealed wound in the collective memory of Britain. And when new documents surface, every effort to move forward feels like sinking backward into scandal. New evidence released today raises further questions about Prince Andrew's connection. Eugenie doesn't speak publicly about it, not anymore. When asked, she redirects the conversation toward art, family, motherhood, or environmental causes. But the absence of words can sometimes say everything. It's the sound of dignity wrestling with damage. And perhaps that's what makes her story so quietly powerful. She isn't trying to erase her family's history. She's tried to paint something over it, something brighter, like a restorer gently covering cracks in a masterpiece. She's working brushstroke by brushstroke to remind the world that beauty can still come from brokenness. For those 35 under 35, she's not just a royal figurehead. She's a mentor who listens, who understands what it means to be underestimated. She speaks to them not from a throne, but from experience, of being defined by a last name before being known as a person. And maybe that's the tragedy and the triumph of her life. In a world obsessed with scandal, she's still choosing substance. But the story doesn't stop there. Because while the camera is turned toward Eugenie's grace and Andrew's disgrace, something deeper is happening within the King's Foundation itself. This isn't just a royal charity. It's a network of influence, connecting aristocrats, business magnates, and politicians across continents. Every event, every partnership, every photo op becomes a silent exchange of power. And when such an institution celebrates sustainability and creativity, it also becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the beauty of idealism, but the hypocrisy of privilege. How sustainable can a vision truly be when it's built on wealth and reputation, inherited rather than earned? Maybe that's what Eugenie is really trying to answer, because for her, and perhaps for her generation of royals, the old rules no longer apply. They're not shielded by the reverence their grandparents enjoyed. They're living in a time when every story can be fact-checked, every secret archived, every image immortalized in pixels. The monarchy is no longer an untouchable myth. It's a living, breathing drama, unfolding in real time. And in that drama, Eugenie stands as both player and witness. The title now feels prophetic again. Maybe we're all trying to escape from humanity, its flaws, its guilt, its relentless pursuit of perfection. But art, like truth, doesn't let us run forever. It confronts us. It whispers, look closer. Look closer at the princess who smiles to the cameras, while quietly carrying her family's shame. Look closer at the charity that speaks of ethics, while its associates face legal scrutiny. Look closer at the monarchy itself, an institution built on image, now forced to survive in an age that demands authenticity. Maybe, in the end, Eugenie's story isn't about scandal or innocence. Maybe it's about transformation, the struggle to redefine what royalty means when crowns weigh heavier than ever. She doesn't have the luxury of anonymity, but she has something rarer, empathy, the kind that comes from watching a legacy crumble and still choosing to build something beautiful from its ruins. And perhaps it's the unspoken message behind every royal event, every speech, every photograph. Redemption is possible, but it's fragile. One wrong association, one careless silence, and the cycle begins again. As the sun rises over the palace, life resumes as it always does. The scandals fade from front pages. The young artists continue their work. The foundation releases another statement about progress and hope. And Princess Eugenie, once again, disappears quietly from the spotlight, her story half told, her truth half seen. But the question remains, can you ever escape from humanity when your very life is the art that everyone critiques?